Karen, I understand that accidents aren't always accidents.
They're not. It's probably a big statement to put out there, but probably the best way to illustrate that is to tell you a wee story of when my mum ended up in hospital. My stepfather had recently passed away, and my mother's way of coping with the grief was to keep really busy, as you do. But she was no spring chicken herself, and she ended up having quite a bad fall and ended up in hospital. And the doctor said to her, "You might think this was an accident, but it wasn't." He said, "Your body just needed a rest, and it's made sure you got one."
Which is quite ironic when you think about the mind actually saying, well, okay, this is going to hurt, but it's the only way I'm going to stop you.
That is exactly what's happening, because especially in the body can talk to us. Not the same way our thoughts can, but the body gives us messages. But especially in the Western world, we're not so in touch with listening to that. And sometimes we don't notice the messages. The messages can be feeling stressed, they can be feeling tired, they can be a little ache, a rash, they could be pain, they could be anything. And usually we don't notice that the body's trying to tell us something. What that is, we'll talk about in a minute. But then eventually sometimes when the body's message gets louder and louder and louder, sometimes we do get it. We think, okay, right, I'm realising that I need to slow down or do less or something like this. But I can't, because I've got this job to do and I've got this to get through and oh, I've got too much on right now. After this is all over, I'll stop then. But the body sometimes can't wait. And that's when you get that big bam, when it stops you dead in your tracks. Hopefully not literally dead, but that can happen too.
So pulling a pair of socks on and your back goes out.
It's life's way of saying one of two things, Rob. Option one, you're on the wrong path right now, doing the wrong thing. Perhaps it's time to change paths, i.e. sell the farm even. That's option one, not necessarily as dramatic as that. Option
it's
one...
It's really dramatic to sell the farm, but yes.
I'm just saying, option one, you're no longer on whatever you're doing, you're not on the right path right now. Or option two, you just need to do less on this path that you're on. You need to have more balance, more relaxing time, because most people don't have enough relaxing time. I say to my clients, look, there's two things in life. There's things that deaden you, sometimes literally, or things that bring you joy. That's a hard concept. So let's just say things that make you happy and relaxed. And so sometimes I say to people, how many things in your life do you have that make you feel happy? Thank you, Rob. And if you're struggling, read the book about how to be happy.
Because happiness is something which you have to work on.
It's a learned skill. It's just that a lot of people haven't learned it. So sometimes when I say to people, what's your balance between things that deaden you, and by things that deaden you, I mean things that sap your mental or emotional energy, not so much physical, but mental and emotional. Some people say to me, I have none. I have nothing that brings me happiness. Everything in my life deadens me, even though it's not like some things, even like children. You might enjoy your children, you love them to bits, but let's face it, they sap your mental and emotional energy. So they have to go on the deadening, and not all the time, but a lot of the time they have to go on the deadening side of that equation. You might love your work on your farm, but sometimes it saps your, not just your physical, but your mental and emotional energy, especially if you're struggling with big stuff like North Canterbury is with the earthquake stuff. So it's got to go on the deadening side.
We're also at the time of the year when you've got harvest and you've got silage making, you've got hay making, and you're fighting against the weather, and you haven't got time to breathe, let alone eat properly.
Everything your whole life is deadening you in that case. And so guess what's going to happen? The big D.
The hitting of the wall.
We have to change the balance so that there's more things in your life to enjoy.
Seriously, it's very easy for somebody to say, I need to change the balance. But how the earth's way do you do it?
What I find, people come to me and say exactly that. And the reason why they can't do it is normally not physically I can't, although that is sometimes a part of the equation, but it's really belief systems. Belief systems like I have to do this because, you know, I can't stop because. There'll be reasons that in your personality will stop you from slowing down and doing less. Even might be guilt. A lot of people have extreme guilt if they sit down and do nothing. Extreme guilt. They'd rather just work because the guilt's too hard to live with. So I help them to get rid of that guilt and the beliefs that are causing it so they can have some time for themselves.
Because that will be the result in a lot of heart attacks and strokes and things.
Yeah. The heart disease, as you know, is the biggest killer in New Zealand and many other countries in the world. And the biggest contributor to heart disease is stress.
So once again, I ask the question of, I mean, do people go and see somebody such as yourself who can actually change their whole world around?
If they can't do it themselves, yes, that's where I come in. You know, you've got your medical doctors who treat the physical stuff. I'm kind of like I'm not a doctor, but I'm kind of like the emotional doctor who treats the thoughts, beliefs and emotions that are holding you back from making the changes in your life that you want to make or that you need to make because something's telling you.
Even reading a book that's going to cost you about 30 odd bucks.
Yep, $35, $5 postage. That's going to change your life because that is a workbook of things that you can do yourself to make changes.
And you can share it with everybody you love.
Yeah, you can.
Karen, thank you very much indeed.
So welcome.
In just a moment or two, we're going to be talking to Tony Davarin.